Hey, what's up, Paratubers? David here from 4-State Paranormal and Haunting History, giving you another video of our Paranormal Tips series. Thank you, Jason, for sending us this request. For those of you who would like to check out his show, Ectoplasm Show, you can find the link in the description below. This video, it could go on for a long time, but I'm going to try to make this as short as I can because there's so much information that I think people would really kind of get bored with it. So let's try to get a few things out of the way. First off, this is requested to be a guide, and I'm not necessarily going to do a guide, but I will give some tips and advice from my own experience whenever I started working on haunting history. To begin, I want to talk about network paranormal reality television. There's just a couple things that I want to point out. The networks only care about the networks. I mean, they care about you too, sort of. They care if you watch. So when you get a show on a network, let's leave some names out of this, but there are some shows out there on networks, on TV, that the networks basically control what goes on for those investigations. And when I say that, it's a lot of these shows will try to manipulate evidence or try to create evidence, and then they'll try to ramp up the action in the episodes or in the show to try to keep the audience entertained and keep them watching. And that's what the networks really care about. I'm not going to say any names again, but there are some shows out there that people have discussed whether or not they have been faking evidence. And you know, that's not necessarily their fault, it is the fault of the networks. So if you wanted to be a reality television star, you are going to have to do what the networks want you to do. The second thing about networks is if you got onto a network, they don't pay you very much. I know it sounds like you would make a lot of money, but in the long run, you're really not. I was recently at the Ashmore Estates 100th anniversary, and the Kling brothers from Ghost Lab, they were there, and they were talking about how the first couple seasons they actually made $5,000 an episode. It does sound like a lot of money if you make, if you put it in terms of, at my regular job I make $2,000 a month. I could do an investigation in one night. There's a lot of stuff that goes into this investigation though for the networks, and they didn't have control of a lot of things. But also, there were some bad dealings that happened with the network, so, they really didn't come out too far ahead. And they also kept their regular jobs in between shooting. And as of now, they still work. I know one of them is still a teacher at a school. He's a special eds teacher, a special needs teacher. And, they still have their regular jobs, so don't expect to get paid like Zach Bagans, makes, I think, I don't know, probably like $50,000 a season of Ghost Adventures. But I also want to point out, if you've noticed, if you've gone to any conferences, there's a lot of names from these reality TV shows that are at these conferences. Guys like Jason Hawes and Grant Wilson and Zach Bagans and Nick Groff, they all go to these conventions or conferences because they get paid to do that. And when they get paid to do that, they mostly make more than their reality shows. Except for Nick Groff, I'm sure he gets paid quite a bit because he's a producer. So let's get off the network thing here real quick. I'm going to give you a little bit more advice just from my own learning process that I've done. I never went to school for filming, and filming was the least furthest thing from my head. And I've only recently started doing this last year. I think when we started the Haunting History series. If you're putting together a reality show, have a hook. A lot of paranormal shows are the same. You can watch the network shows, you can go on YouTube. A lot of the shows are the same. They are kind of a cookie cutter mold of each other. And one of the great things about having a show on YouTube is you can make it what you want. You don't have to have anybody talking in your ear saying, "Oh, you got to do this, you got to do this." So that's a great thing about YouTube or any other social media. The second thing is, a lot of people that watch your videos on YouTube are paranormal investigators, and we spot bullshit. There's times where, I've gone through other people's videos and I'm like, I can't believe they're doing this. Why are you doing this? Don't be one of those shows, please. As a paranormal investigator, I want to watch your videos, but I don't want to watch, people bullshitting their way through it. One of the biggest tips I can give anybody that's wanting to get into paranormal reality, filming even, is to do some research on technique and how to film, how to do lighting, how to do sound. A lot of that is really more important than you realize. There are channels that I've actually watched. Indie Mogul is one of them, and Film Riot is another one. They're big helps. They give you little tutorials, they give you information on technique and all that, how to do interviews, things of that nature. So I totally suggest going to these channels and watching and try to soak in some of this knowledge, because it'll help you in a long run. You're not going to execute everything as well at first, and it takes practice, so you'll have to get used to that. The last tip I want to give anybody for filming is, it's a big one that's very underrated, and that one is get B-roll. Have plenty of B-roll. You can never have too much B-roll. Why? Because you never know when you're going to need it. And it also makes your videos a lot more interesting. As you can tell from this video, it's just me talking. Now, if I were talking and I wanted to start talking about Malvern Manor, Malvern Manor was a nursing home that started off as a hotel, and since the 1800s, they had so many people pass through. Now, did you see how, as I was talking about that B-roll made the video a little more interesting? That's why we say never have too much B-roll. You can never have too much B-roll, because even in an interview, that B-roll comes in really handy, because you don't want to stare at my face the entire time, and I don't want you to stare at my face the entire time, because things will get weird. This B-roll will help draw your audience in and keep them focused on the video, and it won't bore them, because people want to see quick changes when they're watching videos. So on that note, those are just a few tips that I wanted to give for anybody, and it's really not just for paranormal reality television, but more in a sense of shooting good video or making a good show. Again, the links for those shows are going to be in the description. Now on to some news. You're probably wondering why I'm in a room like this. Well, here's the answer. If you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, off our website, we have a podcast called Paranormal Frequencies. And with this podcast, we actually haven't been doing it over the last couple of months. And the reason for that is this. We are actually building a studio that we can actually start doing our podcast once again. We're almost done. I just have sanding to do and painting. And then we start moving the equipment in. But the podcast, we are also going to be changing up a little bit too. We're going to be doing live streaming podcasts right here on YouTube, as well as our recorded podcast on Podbean. And be sure to subscribe to this channel. We love seeing new faces. I try to send a message out to everybody that subscribes, but if I missed you, I apologize. You can leave comments in the comment section, or you can send us a message here on YouTube. And again, if you have any suggestions for the Paranormal Tips videos, I am always taking suggestions. Try to do one as fast as I can. So if I'm wearing the same clothes, that's because I just shot one right after this. But yeah, until then, keep hunting and keep safe, and we'll see you guys later.